Hi, and welcome to the Bilingual Parenting Real Talk, Raising Filipino Kids Abroad. Hello, everybody. I'm sharing this talk that I did with Banyuhay Aotearoa. I am very passionate about this topic and thought, why not make it accessible to the whole world, right? So, just a disclaimer, I'm sharing insights from my own experiences, books that I've read, podcasts, podcasts I've listened to, and other sources. And I'm only offering ideas for you to consider. Always choose what works best for you and for your family. If you have concerns about your child's development, please consult a healthcare professional. So, first things first, who am I? I am Jan, originally from Cebu, and I've been in New Zealand for 14 years. I'm a nurse by trade, but more importantly, a mama. So, me and my Kiwi husband, we have a nearly 4-year-old daughter, and I have founded the Filipino Bilingual Parenting Facebook group. So, I can also connect and get support from other Filipinos raising Filipino kids in the diaspora. I have also authored and illustrated a couple of children's books in Bisaya and Tagalog. So, this topic is very important to me, especially since becoming a mom. Because I'm Filipino, it's a big part of my identity. I grew up there and I loved it there. And my daughter will be Filipino too. She's part Filipino. And speaking our dialect will help her connect with myself, with herself, with our extended family. And as you know, there's also lots of benefits to speaking more than one language. And with speaking Filipino, it empowers us and makes us feel at home with other fellow Filipinos. And as you all know already, language plays a crucial role in preserving our culture.
All right. Before we dive into the how, let's first acknowledge the challenges of raising bilingual children. Living outside the Philippines means our environment is dominated by a different language. So in New Zealand, that language is English. And media content is predominantly in English as well. So diba, usually yung mga TV or kids shows, it's usually in English. So then it becomes so convenient to just use English all the time. But however, there's something that really confuses me. Like, when we're in the Philippines, I've just noticed Filipinos automatically speak to little kids in English. But why is that? Seems like an automatic response. If you know why, let me know in the comments below. Another barrier or a challenge is that when we live in a different country, we strive to preserve our culture while we also adapt to the host country's culture. And also, meron ding generational cultural differences. That's a bit of a mouthful, which can also be quite significant. Like for example, in my time, when it comes to music, very popular yung parokya ni Edgar. And then now, it's all about Bini, Alamat, or TJ Monterde. So there's that gap as well that we also have to take into consideration. And in my opinion lang to ha, having like if a child have two Filipino parents, like the mom and dad, this can make it easier to raise bilingual children. Because then you two can actually just say, okay, when we're at home or when you're speaking to mama and papa, or nanay and tatay, we only speak in Tagalog or Bisaya. It just, I feel like it's a bit easier. And then you have like sort of the same culture as well. But however, being in a mixed race relationship like I am, it just adds a bit more challenge to raising bilingual kid. Because like for us, we adapt the one parent, one language style. So I speak Bisaya to my kid, and I just strive hard to teach her Tagalog, but it's very, very difficult. So yeah, and then her dad speaks English, which is spoken everywhere else. So that's just a bit more challenging. And then also access to cultural events is also a bit limited. But thankfully, like here in Auckland, people like Jade, like Batang Pinoy events, like there's more and more Filipino events which have, spurted, like nag-bloom na ang mga Filipino cultural events. It's just a bit too populated, but you can pick your battles. You can just go to an event like at the very start or at the very end, or choose to go to smaller events. At least meron pa ding cultural exposure yung mga bata. Ito din, another major challenge is access to Filipino-based resources. It's not just about finding, educational materials. Also, limited din ang content. Like, for me, I was quite frustrated that wala masyadong, educational materials or books that I can find in Bisaya or Tagalog. That's why I made my own. And media content, kulang na lang kung kaya ko lang. I will also make, videos like, cartoons in Tagalog. There's cartoons in Tagalog, but it's quite hard to get them or to get access to them. And then, mahirap na nga Tagalog, how much more other Filipino dialects. So it's just more challenging. Also, community support is scarce. Wala masyadong language classes in Tagalog, usually just online. And again, cultural events, they also offer exposure to the language and culture of our country, of the Philippines. So if you're able to support your kid with the language classes, the cultural events, it just, sprinkles a little bit of Filipino in their lifetime, which I find is good. All right, so now that napag-usapan na natin yung mga challenges, so alam na natin anong mga hadlang or anong mga dapat nating i-go over, now let's look at the things na kailangan nating i-consider and have at the back of our minds when we are raising bilingual kids. All right, setting goals. Ito talaga very important. I discovered the importance of setting goals just like 2 years ago. And it would have been incredibly helpful to know this before I started my bilingual parenting journey. Because setting goals will help establish realistic expectations and understand the effort required to raise a bilingual child. So, ano ba talaga ang gusto mong makamit ng iyong mga bata when it comes to speaking or being Filipino or being part Filipino? So is it that they understand both language? Like, let's use English now. They understand both English and Tagalog, but can only speak one, so they can only speak English. Or the second one is they can understand and participate in everyday topics for both English and Filipino. Or a bit higher, tumataas yung goal natin, di ba? So they can speak both languages fluently. That's also that's doable, I think. Kung kayang-kaya, or kaya mo kat. And a student na parent, when it comes to bilingual parenting, is that the kid is fluent in both language. So fluent in both English and Filipino. So they can speak, read, and write. I mean, that's the ultimate goal. But if my kid can understand Bisaya, but can limitly speak it, I think that's a win for me. So for me, I have to change my expectation because the reality, it changes every day. And mahirap na nga mag-parent, tapos i-add pa ang bilingual parenting, So it's up to you which one your goal is. And then also, before anything else, consider these two questions. How much time and effort are you willing to invest? Open-minded ka ba? Joke. So parenting is challenging enough as we know it. And it can be difficult to speak Filipino if you're already accustomed to English. Diba? Personally, I myself, I really struggled the first 3 months because, my husband is Kiwi. So I mostly speak English already at home. And when my daughter came, I really put a lot of effort to speak Bisaya with her, even if she, newborn, hindi pa siya nakakapagsalita. But I tried hard to really speak Bisaya with her. And it was very, very challenging the first 3 months. But, you have to persevere, you have to be consistent. And I kept reminding myself, speak Bisaya. And then eventually, I'm more comfortable using it. And, when I see other Filipino kids, hindi na automatic response to speak with them in English. I automatically speak to them in Tagalog or Bisaya if I know that their parents are from, Bisaya region. It's just training your brain that way. And also another thing to ask is, what kind of support will you get? Personally, I am very fortunate that my husband wanted our daughter to learn Bisaya as well. Initially, I felt really awkward because he and his family couldn't understand what I was saying to our daughter. And in speaking Bisaya with Jessie in the community, like when we're out, also made me feel really self-conscious. Parang nanliliit ako sa sarili ko because I was speaking my native language. However, I persevered and grew more comfortable. And the more I speak Bisaya with Jessie in the community, the more I notice that there's other parents not from New Zealand, like Chinese, there's some Indian or other from other countries. They're actually speaking with their kids in their own language, and that's just like, oh, this is good. And every time I speak with Jessie in Bisaya, Filipinos or other people from they compliment me that I am teaching our daughter in Bisaya, and then since then I've been feeling quite proud and at ease that I can use my native language to speak with Jessie everywhere. And then my husband has also picked up many Bisaya words along the way too, and frequently uses them. Masyak na lang ako. Sometimes I even speak to him in Bisaya, and then he sometimes replies. And I was like, "What? How can you understand that?" So anyway, if you've got a partner that doesn't speak our language, when they hear it a lot, they pick up little bits and pieces. Lana, marites na yan. They can pick up when you're with other Filipinos. They can pick up the gossip. Okay, so now you might be wondering, how often should you speak to your kids in Filipino to ensure they understand or speak the language? Well, experts suggest that there should be exposure to the language for at least 30% of their waking time. It's not just about letting them watch, teleserye or cartoons in Tagalog, but about engaging in rich interactions, such as discussing your day or you're telling stories and having meaningful conversations. So with drop off and pick up, you start with, Kumusta? Kumusta ang araw mo? O paalam na. You just, scatter Filipino words along the way. And if you do it 50% of the time, good. Then you don't have to worry about the 30%. Diba? So for kids to speak Filipino, there must be a genuine need for them to use the language. In this regard, this is where I particularly envy families where both parents are Filipinos and have grandparents around, as this creates like an ideal environment for the language use. And for me, I remind my daughter, oh, can you speak Bisaya, be? Kaya wala ko kasabot, so I don't understand. But sometimes I don't even notice that she's talking to me in English and I respond in Bisaya. But she still understands, so okay na lang. And a good tip on teaching kids to read in another language is it's better to start with a language that's harder to read. So in our case, English. So you teach them in English first because English has silent letters and other complexities. Diba? So in Tagalog or Bisaya, you just sound each letter anyway. Wala tayong masyadong silent letters. So better to teach them how to read English first. But if you're really worried about your kid not developing properly, then you should talk to a healthcare professional. And again, paulit-ulit, always be consistent in using the Filipino language. If you're in an English-dominated country, this is what my husband told me. If you're in an English-dominated country, kids are always going to learn English regardless. So focus on using Filipino. Okay, next question is, when do you start using Filipino language? So the answer is the sooner the better, or just simply now. So with me, I started talking to our daughter when she was still in my tummy, because me and my husband both decided that we are going to expose Jessie to my language or to Filipino. And it's also helpful to consider the stages of a child's development as outlined by the Montessori principles. So 0 to 6 years old is the absorbent mind. So yung brain nila this time is like a sponge. This is the best time to immerse them in all things Filipino. Language, speaking, reading, screen time kung that's your jam. So anything Filipino, i-immerse. Kasi parang sinusoak up lang nila yan from 0 to 6 years old. When they're 6 to 12 years old though, ito ang conscious imagination stage where they become conscious learners. So they pick and choose what they want to learn. And they learn primarily through memorization and direct teaching. So, the more Filipino you sprinkle, the earlier, the better. All right, eto na. Here's how we do it and what can make it easier. So you don't have to worry about 30% exposure during waking time. Just speak Filipino all the time. If that feels overwhelming, because you're starting out pa, and then hindi ka nasanay mo Filipino, you can start by setting specific times to speak Filipino. Like you say during meal times, and then you gradually increase it. So, and also find other Filipinos and encourage everyone to only speak Filipino when you meet, especially when the kids are around. And what I also do sometimes is I pretend I don't understand my kid when she speaks English. It's a bit hard, but I can only try. And also, it helps if you force yourself to think in Filipino most of the time. Most of the time, think in Filipino. Ba't ka ba nag-English sa utak mo? Ikaw lang naman, sarili mo lang naman ang kausap mo, di ba? To Shalin. All right. Immerse your household as well in everything Filipino. Books, shows, videos, and music. Oh, original Filipino music. OPM, I love it. It's also an awesome way to introduce language and culture. And obviously, Filipinos are known for karaoke. Di ba? Music. Think mga Sarah G, Bamboo, ano pa. And it doesn't have to be all children stuff. It's important that you also enjoy what you are doing and teaching your kids. Sometimes nga, I just belt out OPM songs in the car with my daughter. Di ba? So, yeah, she has actually like salamin salamin. And then also one thing I also do is make Wednesdays our official everything Tagalog day. So from songs, videos, etc. I try hard to just put Tagalog in because we're Bisaya and most Filipinos can speak Tagalog. That's why I try and put Tagalog in. And ito pa, how you can do it is to use language learning resources. You can buy books. So me, di mapakali, when I can't find many Filipino books, I translated any book into Bisaya or Tagalog, which has become a habit. So when your kid, from 0 to 3, yung hindi pa sila marunong magbasa, you can actually just, translate whatever book you have into Filipino. Minsan tiring din, minsan nawawala yung mga words ko, but that's why I prefer using Filipino books because the words are already there. But if you don't have it, that's what you can do. And also, you can make your own, diba? Or lagyan mo lang ng sticker, i-translate mo beforehand and then just write it down on the book. That will make it easier. And also, expose them to the folk tales we used to know, like Alamat ng Pinya. Medyo morbid, pero it's part of our culture. And it doesn't have to be, when you make your own books, it doesn't have to be fancy. Pen and paper lang, ikaw lang mag-drawing, stick figures. Okay na yan. At least you are exposing them to the Filipino language. You can also use flashcards and posters in Filipino, and you can make it or buy it. Oh, I sell them by the way. And also, to make learning fun, play games in Filipino or traditional Filipino games like sungka and jackstone. And when you're playing it, you speak Filipino as well. O, di ba? 2 birds with 1 stone. And ito pa, exposure to the Filipino language, also exposure to our culture. And we Filipinos love celebrations, right? So use this to your advantage. When you cook a Filipino dish, involve the kids and use it as an opportunity to speak to them in Filipino. Say, halo, o diba? O dagdag. Ganon, just like that. And then celebrate Filipino holidays. The more celebrations, the better. And join community events to expose them to both the culture and the language. So this one, the Bilingual Parenting Group for Filipinos on Facebook, Shout out to Coco Vanilla Road for making the logo. It's very nice. Shout out na din sa kanya kasi all her 3 kids raised in New Zealand know how to speak Tagalog. 'Di ba? So inspiring. Okay. Ba't ko ba ginawa yung Filipino bilingual parenting group? Walang magawa? No, joke lang. Maraming time. Joke. Anyway, I established this group in 2021 after I learned about a Vietnamese bilingual group in Facebook. That group had active parents seeking support and sharing resources, which I thought, maganda to ah. And I found it really difficult to find resources and support from other Filipinos, so I decided to create our own group. Medyo crickets pa nga lang for now, but spread the word and let's help each other out. We've had a few people ask for support or advice in the group, but I think medyo shy pa, warming up pa yung mga tao. I've also tried reaching out to experts like Filipino speech language therapists who might be able to help on the page as well. So don't be shy, post your questions or anything on there. So before I end, remember, be consistent, speak and think in Filipino. You can do it. We can do it together. Use the Facebook group for online support. And that is it. Maraming salamat sa pakikinig sa aking mga insights.
And these are the resources that I use, the books, podcasts, if you want to know more, and websites, more about what I discussed in the slides. And also, don't forget to scan the QR code so you join the Facebook group. And don't forget to answer the questions so you can join. All right, maraming salamat again and kaya natin to. Bye!